Hey guys, it's Mike here. 2017 is over and done with, and it's time to go over some of the films of the year. I've already done my top 10 best films of the year, so if you haven't seen that, you should go check that out before watching this one. However, if you've watched that one, then you're in the right place, because now it's time to go over my top 10 worst films of 2017. Now, some of these films you may not agree with, but I just found them to be very unenjoyable. So with that said, let's get straight into the video, shall we? Number 10. Now, the Underworld films, though not the best franchise, I really do enjoy them because of the action, the lore, and the characters. But I find it unfortunate to say that with the latest film, Underworld Blood Wars, I've completely fallen out of love with the franchise. I mean, all the actors in this film look more dead inside than the characters they're playing do on the outside. And the fight choreography in this film is just so poor that you just can't even tell who's fighting who. But to be honest, with the plot and everything else going on in this film, you just don't really care. For the longest time, I really wanted to find out what happened to Michael, what happened to Kate Beckinsale's character's daughter, but I'm at this point now where I just don't even care anymore. Number 9. Wait, do you hear that? It's the sound of all the people who saw and liked this film. Silence. So for those of you who don't know, Silence is a film that is directed by Martin Scorsese. You know, the guy who brought us such classic films such as Goodfellas and Wolf of Wall Street, and he now brings us Silence. This film is set in the 17th century and stars Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, and Liam Neeson. Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver's characters are priests who have heard that Liam Neeson's character has renounced the word of God, and the two of them must travel to Japan to find out if this is true. And they also go over there to bring the word of God to all the Japanese people. This movie was over 2.5 hours long, but with the way it's paced, edited, and everything else like that, it just feels like 2.5 years long. I mean, the worst thing about this film is just so overly preachy. I mean, Andrew Garfield's character just goes over there and just preaches them all the time about how God is the answer, God is the light, and by the end it just bugs you and makes you just want to stop watching this film. My advice to you with this film is just don't watch it. Stick with Martin Scorsese's other films, because I guarantee you'll have a much better time watching them. Number 8. Now, I'm a firm believer that one day we'll be in the golden age of cinema where we get a great video game movie every other month. And I thought that the Warcraft movie had paved the way for great video game movies. But alas, I was wrong. So this brings me to Assassin's Creed. The main issue I found with this film was that they tried to be too flashy with the combat by having them cut from the past to the present whenever Michael Fassbender's character was inside of the Animus. But it just came across as too shaky and too jarring and became completely incomprehensible. But the worst thing I found about this film was them doing the leap of faith scene. Now, I thought that that was going to be one of the saving graces of this film, how they were going to incorporate this game mechanic to real life. But in the end, they had him jump off the building and then cut out of the Animus just before he lands. I mean, why even have it in the film if you're just going to do that? I mean, just terrible. I mean, maybe there's still hope. The Lara Croft movie might be good. Fingers crossed. Number 7. Next up, we have Suburbanicon. This film is set in the 50s. In this film, Matt Damon's wife has just died, and he shacks up with her sister, and for some reason, they make his wife and her sister both Julianne Moore, making them twins, which throughout the whole film just isn't mentioned again. There's just no reason for it, and I can't think why they did it. And there's also this other story thread where there's a black family living in this all-white suburban neighborhood. And in the end, this story arc just serves as a distraction, quite literally, for the main one in the end. Now, I was quite looking forward to this film because they made it look like it was going to be a dark comedy. And you know, Matt Damon is usually a safe bet when it comes to films. But as the film progressed, I just started to care less and less because all the good jokes they used in the trailer and all the ones that were left in the film just completely fell flat and just weren't funny in the end. But the main problem with the film, it couldn't decide whether it wanted to be a comedy or a thriller, and it didn't make either one meld together very well at all, and overall, just a boring film. Don't go see it. Number 6. Now, to this day, I've never walked out of a film at the cinema, but with Ghost in the Shell, I came really close. Now, full disclosure, I have not seen the anime, nor before seeing this film did I hear that there was an anime based around this film. So my review of this film is purely based on the film itself. So right off the bat, all of the good action scenes for this film were in the trailer, but I thought maybe they were saving a couple of them for the actual film itself. Boy, was I wrong. I didn't see any reason as to why I should be caring about these characters because they were just so one-dimensional and uninteresting. The only saving grace for this film was the visuals for the city because they actually tried really hard with that. So I will commend them for that. But unfortunately, a pretty city does not save this bore fest of a movie. In the end, I wish I did walk out. Number 5. There are a few examples of a good 6th film in a franchise, and Resident Evil: The Final Chapter is definitely not one of them. This was easily one of the worst edited films of the year. Probably one of the worst edited films I've ever seen in my life. For example, there are sections of fight scenes that are about 10 to 15 seconds long, and in these scenes, they have over 20 plus cuts. I mean, that's just awful. And again, we've got to get to this place to stop the T-virus, and along the way, some red shirts die. And in the end, all we can say is, oh, no, not that guy. He had lines. Oh, dear. You would think with the bad critical and commercial reviews that they would stop throwing money at this franchise, but yet, we have 6 of them now. Even though this one's called The Final Chapter, I don't think that we've seen the last of these because, for some reason, they still keep making money. Number 4. Now, I remember seeing the trailer for The Snowman and thinking that it didn't look like a very good film. But as it came closer to the release date, I got a little bit more excited about it. Now, after seeing the film, I can say my first thought was a complete understatement. Now, I can tell you what makes this film bad from the 2 lines that were in the trailer that weren't in the film. The first one being when Michael Fassbender's character is talking to Rebecca Ferguson's character, he says that the killer cuts up his victims into little pieces. That's what a child does to establish order. Now, this line gives you an indication as to the mental status of the killer himself. You think that he's a bit childish and a bit self-destructive. And the second line from the trailer that wasn't in the film was when the killer calls up Michael Fassbender and says, "You could save them, you know. I gave you all the clues and everything." That gives you the impression that this film will be a bit of a cat and mouse kind of game. But again, that line is not in the film. And all we're left with is a generic murder mystery movie that thinks it's cleverer than it is. Overall, The Snowman should have been left out in the cold. Number 3. Now, I love a great biographical pic where they go into great detail about the person's life and they show you what made them so great that it was worth making a film about them. Jackie, on the other hand, was not one of these films. Normally with a film I don't like, I wouldn't say that it needed to be 20 to 30 minutes longer. The reason I would say that it needed to be a bit longer is because we needed to see her before she was grieving, so we could see what made her this inspirational woman that it was worth making this film about her. But no, all we get is her just constantly in grief, being very indecisive, and overall just someone who you would wonder, why would they even make a film about her? And this film did nothing to tell you about who she was or what she was like. I mean, I didn't know who Jackie Kennedy really was before seeing this film, and this film didn't really give me much more information on her. But in the end, I don't think an additional 20 to 30 minutes would have saved this film, because in the end, it was just very one-note, boring, and just not worth seeing in the end. Number 2. Now, this next film, I knew it was going to be terrible, but it was Valentine's Day, and my girlfriend at the time really wanted to see it, so I thought I would try and be objective and give this film a fair rating. But literally 10 minutes in, I knew what was going to make this a bad film, and that was the horrible relationship between the 2 leads, and the lack of chemistry that they had. And anyone who would say that this woman was a good role model really needs to have a reality check. The film I'm of course talking about is 50 Shades Darker. God, what a terrible film. I mean, the thing that this film sells you on is that it's all about, you know, really raunchy sex, but it's just so ridiculously tame. I mean, the best way to describe it is how Jonah Hill's character in 22 Jump Street describes having sex with this girl that he's just had sex with. He describes it like this. We're talking missionary. We're talking missionary. We're talking she's on her back and I'm on top. And that's pretty much what the film is like. But other than that, it just had ridiculous lines, a ridiculous story, and overall it's just a bad film. Now really, I don't have an hour to tell you all the reasons why this film is bad, so I'll just leave you with this.
Number 1.
Now, I didn't think I was going to find a film that I hated more than 50 Shades this year. But alas, I did. Now, this film had people split. Either they loved it or they hated it. And as you can guess, I was one of the people who hated it. And that film was Mother. Now, granted, I didn't have high hopes going into this movie, but the trailers made it look quite decent and they made it look like a claustrophobic thriller. But nope, the trailers lied. Instead, what we got was an artsy film where nothing means nothing and everything means something else. I mean, I get having your own interpretation of a film, but you can't make having your own interpretation of the film the whole purpose of the film. I see it as like this. It's like if you go to a restaurant, you order some food, and the waiter comes out and brings you a rock, and then they tell you to imagine that it's food. That's all well and good, but you still have to eat the rock. Overall, this film just made me mad, and I would sooner watch 50 Shades again than watch this film again. Okay guys, that's my list of worst films of 2017. Did you agree? What was your least favourite film of the year? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments. And until then, I've been Michael. See ya!